They told me the morgue was empty, that everything had been moved years ago. But when I pushed that rusty door open, I realized something was waiting in the dark, breathing just beneath the silence. When I got the call from the county maintenance office, I didn't think much of it. I was used to odd jobs, cleaning up places the city forgot about. The woman on the phone told me the old Riverside morgue was being inspected for possible renovation, and they needed someone to clear the dust and check the pipes. Simple enough. It was good money, too. More than a week's pay for one night's work. I should have known something was wrong when she paused before confirming the address. Almost like she wanted to warn me, but couldn't. She ended the call with a feint. Just finished before midnight, all right? Then the line went dead. The building sat at the edge of the industrial district, swallowed by fog and silence. The parking lot was cracked, weeds clawing through the asphalt like veins. The front door, half rusted and chained loosely, hung open just enough for me to squeeze through. Inside, the air was stale and heavy. My flashlight beam cut through layers of dust that floated like ash. The smell was sharp, chemicals, mold, and something faintly metallic, the kind of scent that clings to you, even after you leave. The main hallway stretched ahead, lined with pale tiles that reflected my light like old bone. Each step echoed too long, the sound bouncing back from corners I couldn't see. I passed a sign that read Autopsy Theater with the paint peeling off. The letters seemed to fade into the wall as I moved past. The cleaning list was simple. Check drainage, mop the floors, wipe down any surfaces for mold. The building had been closed since 1999 after a flood knocked out power and equipment. No one had worked here since, or so they said. Half an hour in, I was sweeping near the examination room when the first sound broke the silence. A slow, dragging thump from somewhere below me. It came from the sub-basement, the one marked storage and cooling. At first, I told myself it was pipes or rats. Old buildings make noise. But then it happened again, slower, heavier, like something being pulled across concrete. I tried to ignore it, kept cleaning, but the sound came again, closer this time. I froze. My hand tightened on the mop handle. The air seemed to shift colder, as if someone had opened a door to the outside. "Hello," I called out, half expecting my voice to sound ridiculous echoing in an empty morgue. But then something answered, a faint knock. 1, 2, 3, coming from beneath the floor. I stepped back, my breath caught in my throat. My flashlight flickered, briefly revealing the rusted grate near the corner of the room. It led to the basement's cooling corridor. The air, vent below, exhaled a faint wisp of mist. When I crouched near it, I swear I heard whispering. Not words I could understand. More like a trembling breath repeating itself. I forced myself to move on. I wasn't about to run from my job because of some sounds in the dark, but my nerves were starting to shake. As I entered the autopsy theater, the light above flickered back to life for a brief second. Faint, yellow, buzzing. There were still gurneys lined up near the wall, covered in dusty sheets. The kind of white that isn't really white anymore, just gray from age. When I pulled one of the sheets aside to clean the surface, I froze. Beneath it was a body drawer slightly ajar. A black tag still dangled from the handle. It read, Case number 2478, unidentified male, 1999. The drawer was open just enough for the air to escape. A faint whiff of decay, old but distinct. I told myself it was residue, leftover odor from years ago. But then I noticed the inside of the drawer wasn't empty. There were scratch marks, deep, jagged ones, carved into the metal from the inside. That was when the lights cut out completely. I stood in pitch black, the hum of the fluorescent bulbs dying like a heartbeat fading out. I fumbled for my flashlight, switched it on, and the beam landed directly on the body drawer again. It had moved. The drawer was now fully extended, the empty space yawning open like a mouth. I backed up until I hit the cold tile wall. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. Then from the far end of the hallway, I heard that dragging sound again, closer, louder, like something was being pulled along the floor. The beam of my flashlight trembled as I pointed it down the hall. The corridor was empty, just the flicker of light catching on metal. But the sound didn't stop. It was coming closer. And with it came that smell again, stronger this time. Right. I stumbled backward toward the entrance, trying to find the way I came in. My boots slipped on something slick. Water, I thought at first. But when I looked down, the floor was smeared with a faint reddish streak leading from the autopsy table to the open drawer. The temperature dropped sharply. I could see my breath now, trembling in front of me. Then my flashlight flickered once, twice, and for a brief instant, I saw something move past the end of the hallway. It wasn't human. Too tall, too thin. The motion was wrong, like it was folding itself into the dark as it moved. I held my breath, frozen. The dragging sound stopped. Silence again. Then knock, knock, knock. 3 times right behind me. I turned in the drawer. The one I'd seen open was now closed again. Only this time, the black tag was gone. I ran. I didn't even realize my hands were shaking until I reached the front doors and slammed into them. The chain outside rattled, as if someone had just pulled it tight from the other side. I wasn't alone in that building. When I finally got my phone signal back outside, I called the number from a work order. The woman answered instantly, her tone calm but strange. "You left early," she said flatly. "Did you see it?" My voice cracked. "What are you talking about? There's something in there." Her silence lasted too long. Then she whispered, "Don't go back. If it notices you, it follows." And the line cut out again. I turned to look back at the morgue one last time, through the cracked window of my flashlight beam. Still lying on the floor, flickered on its own, sweeping slowly toward the door, like something was holding it. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that narrow hallway, the drawer sliding out by itself. The flashlight, moving like a hand, was still holding it. The woman's last words echoed in my head. "If it notices you, it follows." By morning, I'd almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. Maybe I'd breathed in something from the old chemicals. Maybe I'd hallucinated. But when I turned my jacket over to hang it, a thin, rust-colored streak marked the sleeve. It wasn't paint. It wasn't dirt. It was dry blood. I tried calling the number again, but it went straight to voicemail. The work order had no company name, just County Facilities Division. I searched the address online. Every result said the Riverside Morgue had been condemned after fire, not a flood. The date? 1999. The same year on that black tag. I should have left alone, but by late afternoon, I had this crawling sense that something was unfinished. The more I tried to ignore it, the stronger it pulled. Maybe it really had followed me. The air in my apartment felt wrong, heavy, like the morgue stale chill had come home with me. So I did something stupid. I went back. The second time, the fog was thicker. The city lights couldn't even reach the building. It looked like a bruise against the sky. I parked closer to the exit this time, left the engine running. The chain on the front door was gone. Inside, it was colder than before. My breath clouded the beam of my flashlight. The smell hit me immediately. Stronger, fresher, like something would have been disturbed. My cleaning bucket was still by the wall where I left it, but the mop handle was snapped in half. I heard a faint hum, low and rhythmic, coming from below, the basement. I told myself I'd just take a look, record a video for proof, and leave. But as I walked down the hall, the light overhead flickered in a pulse. On, off, on, like it was guiding me forward. The stairwell to the basement gaped open. Rusted steps led into thick darkness, and water dripped somewhere below in slow, deliberate beats. Each drop echoed like a clock counting down. Halfway down, I caught the faintest whisper of movement, something brushing the wall beside me. I turned the light. Nothing. Just peeling paint and old pipes. But then on the landing, I saw prints. Wet footprints. There, leading downward. I followed. The basement smelled like brine and rot. Rows of body drawers lined the walls like silent coffins. My flashlight quivered over them. Some were sealed. Others warped open from age. The metal labels were unreadable except one. Case number 2478. The drawer I'd seen upstairs. But this time it was shut tight, sealed with a crusted residue along the edge. I reached out and touched the handle. It was warm. I jerked back, heart hammering. That's when I heard it again, the dragging sound. But slower now, closer, like something heavy was crawling behind the rows of drawers. I swung the light, expecting movement. But all I saw were stainless steel doors gleaming dully in the beam. Then the air shifted. My flashlight dimmed to a weak glow, just enough to see breath pouring from my mouth. From somewhere behind the far corner came a voice. Hoarse, barely a whisper. Cold, too cold. I froze. Who was there? Silence. Then clearer, the same voice trembling. You opened it. My throat tightened. What did I open? The metal above me groaned. A deep creak, like something expanding inside the walls. A drawer on the far end slid out with a screech, scattering dust. My flashlight beam caught a hand. Gray, thin, veins blackened, dangling from the edge. It twitched. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a pipe. The drawer extended farther, and the body inside shifted, ribs pushing against the torn sheet. Its chest rose once shallow, then again. A raspy breath filled the room, wrong and wet. That was when I realized the humming wasn't just a building. It was coming from. The figure sat up, head lolling forward, eyes clouded like milky glass. Its mouth opened, and that same hum spilled out, vibrating the air. But there's something else behind it, a rhythm, like more voices joining, hidden in the walls. I bolted for the stairs. Every step clanged beneath me, the humming swelling into a chorus of broken breaths. At the top, I slammed the door and twisted the latch. The moment it clicked, the sound stopped. Total silence. I leaned against the wall, gasping, every nerve screaming to get out. My flashlight flickered again, and for a fraction of a second, the beam lit up a reflection in the glass door opposite me. There was something standing behind me. I didn't turn, couldn't. I felt it before I saw it. The temperature plummeting, that stale morgue smell curling around me. Then a whisper against my ear. It's warmer where you were. I spun around. Nothing there. But down the hallway, the door to autopsy theater, it was open again, light spilling from inside. I hadn't turned any power on. Inside, the gurney I'd cleaned earlier was gone. The floor glistened, slick with condensation. And in the center of the room sat my flashlight, the one that had vanished last night, standing upright on its end. The beam aimed directly at the ceiling vent. A faint tapping echoed inside that vent, like nails scraping metal. Slow, deliberate. Then the voice returned, softer now, almost pleading. Don't let them close it again. Before I could react, the vent burst open. Something fell from it. A bundle of cloth, hitting the floor with a wet slap. I stepped back as the sheet uncoiled. Inside was a hospital tag, number 2478. The sheet was empty. My hands shook so hard I dropped the light. The room plunged into darkness, and in that pitch-black second, I heard the whisper at my shoulder again, but this time closer, calmer, as if it had been waiting for me. You shouldn't have come back. The exit slammed shut behind me. When I finally stumbled out an hour later, I didn't remember opening the door. The night was quiet, fog curling around the street lamps. My car was still idling where I'd left it, headlights cutting through mist. I looked down at my hands. My palms were blackened with soot or ash, but they didn't hurt. My shirt clung damp against my skin, smelling of salt. And tucked into my pocket was the morgue's black tag, case number 2478. I hadn't put it there. At home, I tried to throw it away, dropped it in the trash, even took the bin outside. But when I came back in, the tag was sitting on the kitchen counter, perfectly clean, letters shining under the light. That night, I woke to the sound of drawers sliding open, one after another, echoing through my apartment walls. That night the noise came again, metal drawers sliding open, one after another. I sat up in bed, pulse hammering, every sound from the walls magnified, until it felt like the whole building was breathing around me. When I turned on the lamp, the room looked normal. But the tag, case number 2478, lay on the pillow beside me. I threw it across the room. It landed with a soft clink against the window and stayed there, pressed to the glass, as if held by static. That's when I realized my reflection in the glass wasn't moving the same way I was. It blinked slower, then it smiled. I snapped the light off. By morning, I decided to find anyone, who could tell me what had really happened at the Riverside morgue. I drove to the county archives, a gray building that smelled faintly of mildew and paper. After an hour of digging through old incident logs, I found a yellowed folder labeled Riverside Morgue, Closure Report, 1999. Most of it was redacted, thick black lines where sentences should be, but one paragraph survived. Fire originated in lower storage. One fatality confirmed. Employee: James Halpern, custodial staff. Cause: asphyxiation and smoke inhalation. James Halpern. That was my name. I stared at it for a long time, waiting for the joke to reveal itself. Different person, maybe. A coincidence. Except the birth date was mine. The signature at the bottom was mine, too, curling in the same unsure way I'd always written it. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. The clerk must have seen my face, because she asked if I was all right. I muttered something about wrong file, stuffed the folder back, and left before she could ask more questions. Back in my car, I dug through my wallet for my ID. The photo looked newer than I remembered, like it had been taken last week. But the issue date said 1998. When I touched the plastic, a sudden flash of memory tore through me. Heat, smoke, a metal door slamming shut. Someone pounding from the inside, screaming for help. I dropped the ID and gasped until the vision faded. Maybe I'd inhaled something down there. Maybe I'd been hallucinating ever since. But deep down, part of me knew. The thing in the morgue wasn't following me. It was trying to remind me. That evening, the air in my apartment thickened again, the faint hum rising from the vents. I turned on every light, every TV, anything to drown it out. But amid the static, a voice threaded through, soft, fragile, desperate. Why did you lock the door? I froze. It wasn't the same gravelly whisper from before. It sounded younger, pained, human. I turned off the TV. Silence. And faintly from the kitchen, tap, tap, tap. On the counter. The black tag lay in a puddle of water, letters smearing. The condensation traced the same number, 2478. Underneath it, words began to appear in the fog on the marble surface, as if a finger were writing from underneath. You promised to open it. My knees went weak. I stumbled backward, grabbing the counter for support. The sound of drawers sliding echoed again, this time from inside the walls themselves. My apartment wasn't supposed to have ducts big enough for anything to move through, but the noises grew louder, crawling behind the plaster, circling me. I shouted, "What do you want from me?" The reply came from the hallway mirror. "You left me." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. A name surfaced on my tongue. Unbidden Eli. The name hit me like a blow. Images flooded back in pieces. 2 janitors working the night shift. A faulty cooling system. Alarms blaring. Doors sealing automatically. I'd run for help, but smoke filled the stairwell. Eli had been behind the freezer door, pounding. I'd promised to open it, but I hadn't gone back. The next morning, the morgue burned, and they told the papers there was one fatality. Now I understood why the work order had my name on it, why no company existed, why the voice on the phone sounded like someone barely holding back tears. They hadn't hired me to clean the morgue. They'd sent me back to remember what I'd done. The humming returned, louder, resonating through my bones. I clamped my hands over my ears, but the noise wasn't outside anymore. It was inside my head, each note matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. Words threaded through it. Eli's voice breaking and reforming. It wasn't the fire, James. It was the door. I collapsed against the wall, shaking. The light bulbs flickered, glowing too bright before bursting one by one, until only the cold glow from the street remained. In that dim wash of light, I saw movement, someone standing at the end of the hall, still and watching. He looked just like me. Same jacket, same scar on the cheek, but his skin was pale, his eyes glassy with that milky sheen I'd seen in the basement. He lifted a hand and pointed toward the front door. My hand moved on its own, mirroring him. We both spoke at once. Time to finish cleaning. Then the hallway was empty. I don't remember driving back to Riverside that night. I just remember standing before the morgue again, the fog parting like it had been waiting. Inside, everything was silent except for a faint heartbeat echoing from below. Each step I took down the stairs felt heavier, as if the building itself were breathing with me. The basement was brighter than before. Every drawer stood open. The air shimmered with heat, even though it was cold enough for my breath to show. And in the center of the floor, one door waited. The freezer door, scorched around the edges, handle melted, but intact. I walked toward it. My reflection in the metal moved slightly out of sync. When I reached for the handle, my reflection smiled first. And I heard Eli's voice again, gentle this time. "Open it, and we can both rest." The latch gave way. Cold air burst out, sweeping across my face like a sigh. The darkness inside was absolute. Something reached from it, not to grab, but to hold my hand. And for the first time since 1999, the humming stopped. Cold swallowed me the moment I stepped through the freezer door. Not just kind of cold that stings skin. This was deeper, a weight pressing inward, freezing thought itself. I reached for the wall, but my fingers found only air. A faint blue glow pulsed somewhere ahead. With each flicker, I saw glimpses of stainless steel tables, dripping hoses, rusted trays, then darkness again. My footsteps echoed far too loudly, like I'd entered a cavern instead of a room. Somewhere behind me, the door closed with a sigh. A lock clicked. When the light steadied, I wasn't in the basement anymore. I stood in the morgue's corridor, clean, bright, humming with the low thrum of machines that hadn't worked in decades. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead. Down the hall, I heard voices, muffled, hurried, terrified. I walked toward them. Through a window, I saw two men inside the cold storage room. Both wore janitor uniforms. One of them, smaller, nervous, was shouting something over the alarm. The other was me. He yanked the heavy freezer handle down, shouting, "I'll be right back." Then he ran as smoke rolled through the vents. The smaller man pounded the door, screaming my name. I watched it happen from outside the glass, helpless, as if I were the one locked in instead of him. Each thud of his fist shook the lights. Then everything went white. When my vision cleared, I was standing in front of the same door again. No smoke now, just silence. But the dented handprints still marked the metal. A voice spoke behind me. "You remember now?" I turned. Eli stood there exactly as I'd last seen him, except the edges of his body flickered, like a film reel skipping frames. His eyes weren't angry. They were tired. "I didn't need to leave you," I said. "I tried to." He shook his head. "You ran. You always run, but you don't get to leave until you finish." The lights blinked out one by one, until only the glow from the freezer handle remained. It looked almost alive, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. "Finish what?" I asked. Eli stepped closer. "Clean up." He opened the nearest drawer. Inside lay another body. Mine again, pale and still, eyes open and staring. Around its wrist was the same black tag. Case number 2478. I stumbled back. No, that's not. But Eli was gone. The drawer slid shut on its own, metal squealing. Then another one opened beside it, and another, until every drawer in the wall began to breathe, expanding and contracting like lungs. The sound rose into a low moan. The temperature dropped further. My breath fogged into words. "You left me." I clutched my head. "What do you want me to do?" The whisper came from inside me this time. "Remember how you died?" Flashes, smoke, fire, metal grinding, the panic as I tried to wedge the door open. Then a cracking sound and heat searing my lungs. I saw myself collapse outside the freezer, not inside. The guilt, the running, it hadn't saved me. We both died down there. The morgue didn't burn because of me. We burned with it. The realization spread through my chest like warmth. But instead of comfort, it brought weight. The humming that had haunted me for days built to a roar. The floor split open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. At the bottom flickered that same blue light. A faint heartbeat echoed below. My reflection appeared again on the metal wall, but this time it looked calm. It said nothing, just pointed downward. I hesitated. Every instinct told me not to go, yet the air above was tightening, folding in on itself. There was nowhere else to move but down. The steps creaked under my weight, each one whispering fragments of my own voice. Apologies, excuses, prayers. At the bottom waited a single metal table. On it sat two tags, Eli number 2477 and James number 2478. Between them, an old tape recorder clicked to life. Static. Then my own voice from decades ago. Maintenance log, March 2nd, 1999. New door seals installed today. Tested automatic locks. Works perfectly, maybe too perfectly. The tape hissed, replayed, distorted until the word perfectly stretched into a long, trembling tone. That tone became the humming I'd been hearing. It wasn't a ghost sound. It was a playback of the moment we died, looping forever. The morgue wasn't haunted. It was a recording, and I was the echo. As that truth settled in, the blue light shifted, softening into daylight. Walls dissolved into blank white. I stood alone, holding the 2 tags in my palms. The humming faded, replaced by quiet breathing, mine and someone else's. Eli's voice whispered close to my ear. Now that you know you can choose, stay or let go. I looked at the tags. One burned cold, the other warm. When I dropped them, they fell through the floor and vanished. The freezer door appeared ahead, open this time, sunlight bleeding through the crack. I stepped toward it. Behind me, the morgue whispered one last time. Cleaned, and everything went still. The light spilling through the open freezer door didn't feel like sunlight. It was pale, weightless, almost soundless, like it might vanish if I breathed too hard. I stepped into it anyway. The floor beneath my shoes changed from metal to tile to damp earth. And when I turned around, the morgue was gone. In its place stood a corridor that looked half-built, half-remembered. The walls shimmered, switching between white paint and scorched brick. Every few feet, faint outlines of the drawers pulsed in and out of view, as if the building were trying to decide what it wanted to be. I heard my own voice echo somewhere ahead, calling names I didn't know. When I followed it, I found a single sink against a wall, running with clear water. A janitor's bucket waited beside it. My mop leaned there too, clean, new, never used. A note hung above the sink, written in shaky pen, for final cleanup only. I understood then. The job had never been about disinfecting floors or washing tables. It was about wiping away the pieces of myself that kept this place alive. Every stain I'd scrubbed in the morgue had been a memory surfacing. Every whisper had been the echo of something I'd refused to admit. The corridor trembled, and the smell of smoke drifted through again, sharp, dry, distant. I turned the faucet off. The silence that followed was heavy, but not hostile, like a hell breath waiting to see what I do next. I said quietly, I'm sorry. For the first time, no voice answered, just a faint sound of water dripping into the bucket. Each drop hit like a clock tick, slow and even. Footsteps approached behind me. I didn't turn. I already knew who it was. Eli's reflection appeared beside mine in the rippling water of the sink. He wasn't burned anymore or flickering. He looked whole, steady, the way I remembered him before that last night. He smiled faintly. You remembered everything. I did. You could stop now. The reflection's lips moved, but the sound came from inside my chest, deep and warm. Then finish the job. I reached for the bucket, dipped the mop, and began to clean the floor. The tiles were spotless, yet with every sweep the walls brightened. The lingering smoke faded. The trembling stopped. Each motion felt lighter, easier, until the handle in my hand started to fade like breath on glass. Soon the bucket was gone too. Only the floor remained smooth and still. When I looked up, the corridor had opened into a vast white room, empty except for a single doorway at the far end. Beyond it, I saw something impossible. The sea. Sunlight glinting on the surface. Waves folding and unfolding in endless rhythm. I walked toward it, my footsteps leaving no sound. Halfway there, a thought caught me. What if leaving means erasing? What if everything, the guilt, the memory, even Eli disappears with me? The hum that had haunted me since the first day returned, softer now, like a lullaby. I realized it wasn't the morgue's machines humming. It was Eli's heartbeat and mine overlapping. For the first time, it didn't scare me. I whispered, we're done cleaning. The hum stopped. At the doorway, I turned for one last look. The white room shimmered, shifting back into the familiar corridors of the morgue. Only now they were quiet, peaceful. No drawers moved, no shadows crawled. It looked like a place finally allowed to rest. I stepped into the light. Salt air filled my lungs, real air, or maybe the memory of it. The water stretched endlessly before me. Each wave erased the one before, gentle, precise, perfect. When the next wave reached my feet, the morgue behind me vanished. There was only light and the faintest echo of Eli's voice. Good work, James. Some nights, people passing the burned-out lot where Riverside Morgue once stood say they hear a low humming under the wind. Steady, calm, rhythmic. Not a cry, not a warning. Just the sound of someone quietly finishing a job they started long ago. The end.